And I now recognize the chair of the full committee, Chair Rodgers, for 5 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for holding this important hearing to expose the risk of the Biden administration's rush to green agenda. And I want to just start where the ranking member stopped. We must get this right. And I want to emphasize, America has led the world in reducing carbon emissions with clean, reliable, affordable energy while having the highest environmental and labor standards in the world. And that is the record we want to build upon. This hearing is about having an honest conversation on how the rushed agenda of the Biden administration poses serious environmental risk because it empowers the world's dirtiest polluter, China. It makes America dependent on supply chains that use slave and child labor. It increases poverty, and it threatens our national security. Since day one in office, President Biden has waged a war on affordability and availability of American manufacturing and energy. It began with the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline, the green lighting of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and the moratorium on energy production on federal lands. Those early decisions strengthened OPEC, including Russia, undermining American energy security as Russia attacked Ukraine. And it also increased our reliance on our adversaries like China. The president has ordered agencies to slow walk permits to modernize natural gas infrastructure, which would expand U.S. LNG exports, despite record high energy prices for Americans and dangerous supply shortages in Europe. Today, fingerprints of this rush to green agenda can be found on virtually every energy and environmental policy and initiative launched by the administration. This administration's goal is 100% wind and solar and 100% EVs. This is a radical and an aggressive agenda that rewards environmental special interests at the expense of reliable, affordable, and clean energy for the American people. Look no further than the California example. Just 1 week after announcing his plans to ban gas cars and force people to buy EVs, Governor Newsom pleaded with people not to charge their cars to prevent energy blackouts. The Biden administration is attempting to force an unrealistic, expensive transition on the American people, from the cars that we drive to the stoves we use to feed our families. This administration is divorced from reality for what it means for America's future. They're downplaying important questions about the environmental, human rights, and national security risks behind rushing to deploy massive amounts of wind, solar, and battery energy. I'm also concerned that many of these decisions are empowering Beijing and the Chinese Communist Party's anti-America campaign. China controls more than 90% of the critical minerals that are used to make wind turbines, solar panels, and batteries for electric vehicles and grid storage. China pollutes more than any other major nation, and it has one of the worst environmental and human rights records, which permeates throughout its supply chains. China's committing genocide and forcing millions of ethnic minority Muslims into slave labor. China controls mineral mines in countries like the Congo, where children are forced to work in inhumane conditions. And of course, China is one of our greatest geopolitical adversaries. President Biden has opened the door to allow China to undermine our energy security, throwing hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies and tax credits at renewable technologies and EVs is not going to change this reality, and it will only further empower China. This must be reversed, and that's why the Republicans plan to keep building off of our work on H.R. 1, the Lower Energy Cost Act. Americans, we're at a crossroads. We can choose a path of economic growth, human rights, prosperity, energy security, and embrace American energy dominance and innovation to reduce emissions, or we can continue down a path of more reliance on China, less energy affordability and reliability. This later path won't reduce emissions, and it sacrifices American values to achieve a political goal. It will result in an over-reliance upon wind, solar, and batteries that will increase pollution and require more land for energy production, increase our dependence on critical minerals from nations with much weaker environmental and human rights standards, and it will strengthen China while compromising our energy security and independence. The choices that we make don't just affect this generation. They're about building a stronger future for our children and our grandchildren for decades to come. And I'd like to thank our witnesses for being here today, appearing before us, and I look forward to your testimony. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pallone, for 5 minutes for